Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video, I'll be playing StarCraft Panda in a pretty wacky game. He's a very strong 201 opponent, but he always has these crazy strategies and the games are, things that you really would not expect whatsoever. This game will be no different. I'll be going for Elite Spec. There was a nice Spider opener there as well with Aerial Specialist. Could have played something like Spider Phoenix, but I can't pass on Elite Spec most of the time, and I think this is a pretty solid pack in the current meta. Ball Hound, we'll be picking up some Crawlers here probably. I've got a good matchup into the Stormcallers, and let's see what we can do. Panda, by the looks of it, opting to go for some asymmetrical defense, which is not all too common with Stormcallers, but it can work out. If I were on the other side, obviously I would get the Tower debuff, but then pushing into the Stormcallers can sometimes be a little bit tricky. Looks like I will be on the same side, however. And just spacing my units here a bit so that I'm somewhat less vulnerable to something like an early oil bomb or, just in general, any type of funneling. I'll be able to move around the map if I need to. Some big spacing here with the Hounds, trying to catch Crawlers if he decided to put them behind the tower, but he doesn't. Opponent is a Giant Specialist, by the way, so we'll have to look out for those bigger units. And I know Panda is a big Giant enjoyer. He plays a lot of Giants in almost all of my games. Either that or Stormcaller, which I guess he has access to both in this game. Crawler's doing well. Steel Balls on the left side, though, not all too happy. I think they got hit by a big Stormcaller salvo there. And it actually looks like we will be losing. The Stormcallers alongside the Arclights dealing so much damage that my Steel Balls just cannot get in. And even though we do grab the debuff, these Crawlers that are still alive won't make it until the end, and the Arclights of my opponent will finish things up. So round one goes in favor of him. And now round number two, Electromagnetic Impact is okay, but I don't really get any value out of it. It has a very low cooldown, and it is very strong late game, but if I don't get anything out of it right now, I'm not really feeling like I should be picking that. Instead, I go for the mass-produced Wraith, which allows me to buy Wraith at 300 cost, I think. Am I getting that right? No, I'm not. 350 instead of 450 for a level 2 Wraith. And I thought it would be a good pair-up with the Steel Balls. It's still a little bit too expensive right now, though. Didn't really want to give up on a deployment. And my opponent went for mass-produced Overlord. So basically has the old Overlords with the 400 cost and immediately buys one. And when I say he likes Giants and he does kind of crazy plays, this is what I mean, right? This is very unexpected. And it makes some sense. There's a high likelihood that I wouldn't buy anti-air, or at least good enough anti-air to deal with something like a boat on round 2. And it would allow him to deal some damage to me, and at the same time kind of start leveling up this boat. Now I decide to sell out of a Steel Ball, considering they didn't do too well, and I didn't want to miss deployments. And instead I go for a Wasp pack on the left with a Crawler as well, to try and attack that left side tower. This does mean that I now see the Overlord. And, well, all I can do now is hope that somehow these level 2 Wasps will be enough to get rid of the Overlord. I think they should be able to, but it will kind of depend on whether or not we get the debuff and whether or not I still have some chaff left alive to distract the boat shots. We will get the debuff, so very happy with that. And now the Wasps will start killing the Overlord. Looks like we just about get it done. But it's a close affair on round 2. And yeah, that is as close as things will get. And now I have to deal with the boat. And obviously I don't really trust my Wasps to do their thing. And so what I do here is, because of the improved firepower control system that shows up, I was expecting my opponent to already get into Mustang and try to punish my Wasps. So I didn't want to feed any experience. And to prevent that from happening, I immediately sell out of the Wasp and get a Mustang myself and decide to range it. So we've got a level 2 Mustang already here by round 3 with an improved firepower control system. And we also decided to put a hound on the flank to kind of start pressuring the right side. Mustangs here are doing an okay job, but another boat got added with some sledgehammers on the left side, and I don't think we'll have enough units left alive to deal with this guy too. But at the very least, we've now got a setup going, and I think with the high-level Mustangs that are available to me, I should be able to make things work. And so round 4, we get some unit reinforcements. Quad Fang could be a good pickup here. It's a lot of deployments, so I don't think it would be wrong for me to go for that. Opponent goes for the Tarantulas, which is high deployment pack 2. Very good into things like Mustang and Hound. But instead, I decide to go for the Melting Point, as there are quite a few big units on the board, and I'm still trying to set up the Mustangs. So even if the Melter isn't necessarily going to be part of the late game board, it'll provide some tankiness right now in the early game, and should allow my Mustangs to DPS freely. Speaking of which, we do pick up 2 more Mustangs now, and we're starting to get to a state where I have about the number of Mustangs that I want. Probably want to have around 4, maybe more. And then we can start thinking about a front line. Could be the Melter, could be a Fortress, but it's expensive on Elite to buy that. Could be Hackers as well. Especially with more Sledgehammers now being picked up, Hackers are looking mighty tempting, and I'm surprised that my opponent hasn't used their haste module, by the way. They took that last round when I took the improved firepower control system, and they're opting to go for the field maintenance now on the Sledgehammers. It's a very cheap tech, very powerful tech too, but this incentivizes me very much to go into Hacker. I mean, with the Tarantula pickups on top of it, I don't see any reason not to go for that. The Melter is tanky, but the only thing it's really good at shooting at is the spiders and maybe the boats. Not necessarily meant to be shooting at those Sledgehammers. Lucky for me, the Sledgehammers are relatively low hit points, so my level 2 Mustangs can still get rid of them. And as my opponent deploys the oil, my Mustangs are stuck on the right side, but they do connect with the Overlord, and I think they should be able to take it down. And while the left side is now collapsing, we will get round number 4. And I'm very happy with how this went. My high-level Mustang there does level. And on round 5, Rhino Assault looks a little bit scary. I might have to pick that just to be able to defend against a potential drop. Could also go for the Orbital though, and I will do that instead. There are some useful things to hit, from the Crawlers to the Stormcallers, and I mean, honestly, even the Sledgehammers are quite good to hit. Have to deal with it myself too though. Might have to just put down a shield over these 2 Mustangs on the right side. Now my opponent trying to move away from the Melter, kind of trying to draw it in, I guess, and making use of the range enhancement they picked up. But here what you'll see me do is pick up the Hackers I was mentioning, and of course they'll be level 2 because I am an elite spec. I'll decide to sell the Melter so that I immediately get 600 resources, which allows me to get the range on the Hackers, buy a bubble, and okay, not quite enough there to get a third Hacker. And let's see how this goes. Even more Sledgehammers being picked up does bode well for me. And I decide to go for a mobile beacon here, kind of backwards and around, hoping to avoid most of the Orbital, which looks like I guessed correctly. Orbital was used on the right side. 1 Mustang pack there instantly gets deleted, but at the very least, my level 3 Mustangs with the improved firepower are still alive and should be moving in after all of those bombs have dropped. Meanwhile, the Hackers are doing a good job of taking over the Sledgehammers, but my Mustangs sitting in front of them are starting to die to the Overlords, and I only can hope that I get enough anti-air here at the end of the round. Not too sure. Looks like I should be fine. We did kill the Stormcallers, but the Hackers now are going down. How much can these Mustangs do? They do get the debuff, 9 seconds. And with the improved, they managed to get a lot of DPS down onto the Overlords, and I luckily will win the round, if only marginally. And now, round number 6, we get efficient giant manufacturing from my opponent. That's 350 cost Overlords. Kind of scary. But I do get an electromagnetic blast in return, which will allow me to hit the Overlords and also hit those sledgehammers. Should make it a little bit easier to push into the left side. I am now also buying a hacker on the right side of the board, as there are some sledgehammers to take over there as well. And obviously, eventually I might want the barriers on the hackers. Now, my opponent decides to make even more use out of their giant specialist and their efficient giant manufacturing, now moving into sandworms with armor. Very, very strong against the Mustangs, but armor doesn't work against hackers because hackers don't deal damage. So there's nothing to reduce, really. They will simply ignore it. Of course, the worms do have 50% additional hit points, and I will have to hack through that. So it's a soft counter, but the armor portion won't be working. Question is, will I be able to take this over, though? It's 80,000 hit points, which is, well, quite a lot. And I'll have to keep it in place for some time. But have a look at that. Very, very quick to hack there. But sadly, the worm burrows, which resets the hacking completely. The good thing for me is that this one worm was so close to the line, it never burrowed. And so it did get EMP'd and lost 50% of its bonus hit points, which isn't the case with this further worm that now comes in. But it looks like we're still doing somewhat fine. And we will even be taking over the second sandworm with both hackers still alive and a Mustang pack on top of it. Meanwhile, right side, level 4 Mustangs have pushed in, got on the tower, and I couldn't be happier, really, with the result in this round. That was somewhat of a surprise turn. I wasn't expecting the sandworms, and I'm sure my opponent was hoping to win, but we managed to get, well, a round win. On the turn, he goes for a new unit. And now, round number 7, we get more unit reinforcements. I decided to pick up the sabers here with the double shot. Cheap tech, lots of DPS, and fantastic against things like the sandworm. Opponent went for the fortress, and I think he just sold it. Could have kept it as well. I guess barrier is a pretty good tech against the hackers, but the double shot sabers should be pretty good into that. And instead, it's just going to be doubling down here on the sandworms and the overlords, with launcher overload being picked up and a third sandworm hitting the board on the left side. Now let's see how this goes. I am buying more crawlers, trying to distract my opponent, because I was realizing his chaff clear isn't the best. He's got some sledgehammers, but without mech rage, they're not fantastic. And worms are not great at chaff clearing either. And though the overlords have overload, they are known to miss faster targets like the crawlers. So I might eventually play for something like loose formation if I get a couple more crawler packs on the board. And let's see, this saber, by the way, does insta-lock the sandworm because it is on the line. And sandworms have about 40 range. It won't burrow. It'll get stuck on the crawlers, and that'll allow me to take this over relatively quick. Yeah, have a look at that damage. Instantly shaving off about 60 or 70% hit points, allowing the hackers to take it over. And yeah, these guys are doing absolutely massive work, shaving off hit points from those sandworms, allowing the Mustangs to connect to the overlords, which are getting tanky now. That level 2 overlord not going down very quick, but the right side still has those Giga Mustangs, and the opponent doesn't seem to have a good way to deal with them for now. And as the right tower will fall, the left side is now also collapsing for my opponent, and that'll be a bit of a better round, sending my opponent down to about 1,000 damage, 1,000 hit points, dealing over 1,000 damage there on that round. And round number 8, we get Ion Blast, which I think is going to be hard to skip for both of us. I've got a good line here of overlords to hit, so I will be going for it. And of course, my opponent does the exact same. Has a line of hackers to hit. Round number 8, I finally decide to get my second tech on the Mustangs with the aerial specialization. I have talked about this in a previous video, but I don't think you should ever try to missile intercept into the Overlords, especially with the high-level Mustangs. It is simply a waste. And after the buffs to the Overlord missiles, they are really quite hard to intercept. I haven't seen it pay off. In most of my games, whenever someone tries to intercept them, they haven't managed to, and they will end up losing because of it. So AA here should just be better. Get the lock a bit earlier, have that 90% bonus damage against the air units, and get rid of the Overlords as fast as we can. And now, how is this going to end up? We do have a good beam, and even though the opponent does make use of the mobile beacon there, I think we should still be able to hit a good amount of Overlords. Both of us are loaning here. We have clicked the temp range. Oil is back off cooldown, which will make it a bit more difficult to get to that right side tower. But have a look at this. Ion beam killing that Overlord. Also killing my Mustangs though, but at least one hacker survives and the Saber is still alive. And as the end of the beam is now approaching, some more Mustangs of mine will die, but I managed to get rid of some Overlords. These ones somehow just about surviving on a sliver of hit points. And it seems to be a very close round. After all, Hacker is still alive. Will we be able to take over the Sandworm? It would be fantastic if we could. And the right side Mustangs have prevailed. Most of them still alive. The Worm will get taken over. And with that, we'll get close, but not close enough to finish off the opponent. Now down to 143 hit points. Round number 9, Haste model shows up. Fantastic item for a high-level Mustang, and I do have another one of those. Vulcan's Descent, I probably have to be a little bit careful of. Might need to level up my right side tower. Left side already leveled, so perhaps it's not as much of a threat as I thought it might be. And let's have a look what my opponent decides to go for. I will go for the Haze module, of course, which will be found on this Mustang over here. Level 5 now. The other level 5 Mustang, I am opting to beacon over to the left side because, as you can see, opponent is quite heavily invested on the left side. We've got the oil to go through, which I was afraid he would Vulcan drop and set this on fire, and I didn't want to lose these Mustangs, of course. So, just deciding to go over to the left side. We will finally get those barriers on the hackers and sell out of the Sabertooth that I had added on the right side because it doesn't have anything to shoot at right now. And then we also go for the loose formation on the crawlers, picking up, I believe, 2 crawler packs. And this is where we try to finally punish that lack of good chaff clear on the side of my opponent. Have a look at how many Sandworms there are, though. And now the second tech on the Sandworms, Sandstorm, being picked up. Very unusual tech. Not many people run this, and even less people click it. But I can see the use of it, especially when you're playing something like Overlord, which obviously isn't affected by the Sandstorm. But some of these Sandworms aren't burrowing, and the ones that do are getting out of the ground a little bit too far from my Mustang. So as you can see, the hackers and the Mustangs here are unaffected by it, and the crawlers are really creating some massive problems on the left side. We can still see some of them alive there, running in, annoying the arc lights, keeping the Sandworms in place, and allowing some of these Sabers to connect, as well as the hackers. And so with that, the Mustangs are just completely safe. Now some of them will run into the Sandstorm, but I don't think it'll matter. Left side collapsing, we get the Tower debuff, we get rid of the Overlord. And so, as we take over the final Sandworm and kill that remaining Overlord, we will be coming out ahead in this game. Quite a crazy one, but a fun one to play. Lots of unusual stuff happening here from the round 2 Overlord, the mass-produced one at that. From, yeah, me going early Wasp and then having to sell out immediately, transitioning into the Mustangs, going Hackers, taking over the Sandworms. Yeah, stuff you don't see every day, but it was fun to play, I have to admit. So big thanks to Panda for always making these fantastic boards to play against. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. Let me know down below what you think of this. Have you ever seen this before? Do you like playing hackers? Do you like playing Hacker Mustang? What about Elite? Put it down there. If you want to stay up to date with my latest content, please consider subscribing if you want to see me play live. Check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.